Overall, the effort is to improve the performance or retain the performance at least, not degrade it. So, based on industry standards, C++, the same C or whatever we are using. One minute, so if anybody is pinging, just have to. One second, okay. So, admitted. Right. Okay, then I will close my WhatsApp session. It's recording. No. Okay. Same NSIC or whatever the C++ language, the same syntax is followed, except the fact that you are including one more header file which includes the CUDA architectures, and there is a special compiler called as a NVIDIA CUDA compiler or NVECC, something similar to your GNUC compiler GCC, which takes care of the additional constructs that are only meant or to be handled by the CUDA compiler, because there is some concept we may come into the picture whenever we are dealing with the last slide of this particular presentation, that is just in time building. So just in time of building is not happening in any of the compilers for that matter, because the build happens while you are running the code. So that support has to be provided with the hardware and software as such. So hardware has an inbuilt so building capacity, as well as software has to be segregated in such a manner that say whatever the hex file you are generating has to give some information whatever is demanded by the hardware whenever you are in a runtime. Right? So that's the heterogeneous computation as such. So straightforward APIs, managed devices, memory, and overall this session is about managing coders. Right? What we learned in this session. So again, basic any C programming will start with the hello world. So you start with the stdio.h or basic standard input output management as such. So hello world. Then write a CUDA C++ kernels. C++ programming. That means somewhere the starting of this course assumes that you know some basics of C or C++, so that you can directly use the CUDA constructs, which can use that parallelization aspect, whatever is required for performance enhancement. So manage GPU memory. So whenever you are seeing GPU memory, or the as we can showcase in the next slide as such, the processor by itself normally. Whenever you are working with a processor or computer architectures, so processor is directly associated with the memory. Normally it is regarded as a primary memory. So if I am not speaking with respect to prefetching and cache kind of architectures, so whatever the number of address lines, with respect to that, whatever the memory directly you can address is normally called as primary memory. So remaining concept of virtual memory and how do you access, so that goes with a different aspect as such. So there is a primary memory associated with it, and whenever we are saying that GPU or graphical processing unit, and it is an array of processors, and hence by default processor should have a memory or through which it can fetch its operands, or the where it is knowledge of the database or the algorithm whatever you have put into it is being stored. So one-in-one architecture. For that it has to have a memory, and how that memory happens to be in a GPU where there is a number of processors, and there is a global memory or the shared memory through which the contents have to be shared. Now there are two systems in a single system, or two subsystems and systems. So one is a host machine which has a different processor or different capabilities, and there is a set of a smaller group of minor processors which have a lesser capability compared to the host machine as such. And now how do they share the things and make things happen? So as we have stated, you should know something about C++. You don't need to have a GPU experience for that matter. So simple C programs, so just a set of APIs as you go on will be made familiar, and you can explore on your own as you mature enough. Okay. So heterogeneous computing, as we have stated, there is a host machine, source of host machine, a processor board, and association memory. So whatever he has showcased is a processor board and RAM, as for that matter, and it is encapsulated within this. So there is a PCS slot or PCI Express slot with which GPU board can be interfaced with a CPU board. So motherboard is not shown over in this diagrams as such. So there is an array of processors in this GPU. So it is Tesla, maybe Tesla K20 or K40, depending on the number of cores in it. So what he's trying to convey with this diagram is there is a parallelization and there is no overlap of for the simultaneously both will not be running. So a sequential thread is run onto the host machine. So whenever it detects something parallelization in the piece of the code it is running, now it creates multiple threads or it forks, and then that job is delegated to GPU. GPU runs that, and finally, whenever it is running, it has to fetch the components or operands required for that computation from its memory, and hence a memory copying shall also happen between this main memory to the memory of the GPU as such. So there is a serial piece of code and there is a parallel piece of code, and they are not overlapped. That's ultimately what you should know wherever you for this particular slide. So it just showcases how CPU and GPUs are interfaced. So any CPU, whenever you have it, uh, there's a bridge. So it is again, I just if I want to state it, it's basically with respect to segmented bus architectures. Whenever you want to design a system, you group the system of the people or components which are working at the same speed together, and hence north bridge, south bridge. So north bridge deals with the higher speed devices, south bridge deals with the lower speed of devices, and hence there's a bridge CPU, and memory is normally regarded as a slower device, and through which you can access some contents from the CPU memory. That's normally whenever I'm considering a single computer or host machine as such. Now we have set of processors or a streaming multiprocessor and finally a streaming processor where you are want to run the code onto this. So some delegation of the job which experts parallelism has to be interfaced with this. So what happens is they are working at a very high speed. If I assume that, then the PCI or whatever the bus standard that is showcased, so that has to be transferred. 1 minute please. That has to be transferred through the PCI bus slot. So if there is more people and they're starving and they're making some kind of demand, so more outstanding demands, so then PCI bus has to provide the data whatever they are required. So because the data is available from the DRAM, if it is not available, you have to make it available through this bus standards or the PCI or the interface standards for that matter. So how the program runs basically copy the input data from CPU to GPU memory, because memory over here is different from the memory at this end. So at times whenever you are going for a pointer, so pointer to pointer, star, void, star, star, something you used in your code, that is happening because the processors are aware of the memory locations over here. Now you copy the contents from the host machine to the uh, CUDA device, and the devices will fetch something, anything they are fetching, it is from the this DRAM or global memory or shared memory of this particular GPU as such. Okay. So load GPU program and execute caching data on chip performance. Again, that's a local memory. So normally called as a cache or L2. Um, why it is happening? Because as we have stated, so semiconductor memory or the more memory nearer to the processor will be faster, and DRAM memory global. So there will be units like a minimum currency of exchange, maybe blocks, maybe in terms of some KBs, say, that is exchanged between the one streaming processor or other streaming processor kind of stuff. So that happens. So prefetching and how prefetching should happen, whether it's a temporal or a spatial. So there will be some algorithms through which you fetch. So finally, the GPUs or the parallel processing happens, and you dump the result into the DRAM. So some memory locations. Now you have copied the pointers, so operands, and finally resultant has to be copied, or the result has to be copied from the GPU to the host machine. It's a normal C code as such. So you start include hash include stdio.h or iostream depending on whether you are writing a C++ or C code. So then you print a hello world and return zero normally, because whenever you define any applications or you start defining applications, normally it is of integer type unless you make it a void kind of stuff. So why integer? Because whenever OS calls this application or is try to run this application, if something happens to this, it is not able to run. So now that has to be indicated by to the OS by an integer number -1 or -2. So there was some error due to memory or some other resource that has to be indicated, or the severity of the error, say fatal or so simple link time error, something of that sort has to be indicated, and hence you have a integer number so that whether this application run was successful or not. So more oftenly, whenever it is successful, you return 0. So 0 is regarded as a successful operation for that matter. And whatever this execution of the code here showcased is normally in any C compiler in Ubuntu or any Linux environment, you'll be using a GCC compiler. Other than that, and whenever you're working on the code blocks or any other Windows-oriented C compilers for that matter, background they may be running the GCC itself, MinGW or any other architecture is based in the running in the background. So ultimately, it's a GCC or GNU-C compiler that's they are running. Or there can be any other C compiler, something like Turbo C. So all other C compilers, something like developer bloodshed or the bloodshed developers, C++ or code blocks or any other C compiler you take into account. So that's running GCC. So if you run in command prompt or the console kind of applications, so you are not clicking onto compile, build, and other GUI based graphical user interface based icons. So you are going for command prompts. This is how you really normally compile any C file, say CC, and the file you want to compile. And whenever you compile in Linux environment, the output will be a.out. So whenever you want to run this /a.out, that's how it has to be given to the command prompt so that your intention is to run that or execute that particular piece of code, whatever hex file or executable file that is generated. So you want to have a different execution file, so then you can create a intermediate files or -o or the object files. So you give certain name for that, and you can run only that particular file. So that are normally available with the GCC compiler. You can be go or search to manual how differently I can compile my code for that. Even the cross compilation and other stuffs are embedded in the GCC whenever you are using it. Just you have to use constructs or switches whenever you are using a GCC command. So GCC minus ARM7. Whenever I say that, this code has to be compiled for ARM7. So one code constructs changes the entire scenario of your code compilations. Although I have not declared anything onto let's say normal hello world kind of file or .c file. So you will be generating LDR, STR kind of instructions and or whatever is relevant for ARM7 that will be generated. What is different in NVIDIA State compiler? Again, whenever we come back to the last slides, again it's just-in-time build. Whatever you are stating, that is taken into account. Otherwise, all the CUDA files, just to make sure that you understand its heterogeneous computing code you are writing. Instead of .c or .cpp extension, you are having a .cu extension, so that you visualize anybody who sees that particular file will appreciate that it is a heterogeneous computing or parallelized code as such. Now, what is the differences he makes? Just observable constructs whenever you see any parallelized code of the compared to the normal C code. So what you are able to see is a keyword something like a double underscore global double underscore. Then any function name, say the function is not giving any return as such, and hence a void pointer. So void my kernel, and it is not also taking any parameters inside it, and hence I guess you can go ahead with respect to void. Otherwise, whatever the parameters you want to pass, so the pointers to that parameters were normally being passed to the function as such. Okay, so because it is coming much before main, and declaration and definition are in the same syntax or same line, so it is not doing anything. So at least at this code you can just neglect that. Int main void, say my kernel 1,1 braces. So now you call something which is targeted for the devices. So whenever I say devices, it is the GPU device you are saying that. So this particular function, my kernel function, has to be executed because you have declared it in the global. So it is called by a host machine, but run onto the GPU machines or the devices for that matter. And these are the parameters normally you pass on. So it's grid, we state that. So number of blocks and number of grids. So whenever you write 1,1, it just means that you are using only one core. So even though if I say that I am using just like 820 or whatever the GPU you are using, so there are 1,000 cores, but you are using only one core, and whatever the piece of code you have written over here, that runs over there. So this is not doing nothing, and hence whenever you call that, nothing happens over there. printf hello, it's a sequential piece of code, and you print only one message hello world and return zero. Fine. So he states again the double underscore global indicates a function that runs on the device but is called from the host. NVCC separates the source code into host device components. So device function is my kernel and host function is your main kernel. So main is run on the machines, and hence you are not including any keyword, something like similar to double underscore global double underscore. Okay, gcc.exe. Okay. Triple angle brackets mark the call of the host code to device, and normally called as kernel launch because it is targeted to run onto the parallel devices. Right now, we just assume that 1 plus 1 after it's a number of blocks, comma number of threads. So that's all the required to execute a function of GPU. So he just makes it simple whenever you are starting a CUDA code as such. So compile it, does nothing. So anti-climatic. He's stating that now we really want to see some performance enhancement with respect to array computations, or then whenever there's a iterative kind of stuff. So if I want to add an array of A and array of B as showcased over here to produce an array of C. And normally, if I say that it's a sequential machine, even though with respect to Intel i5, or you can think of a Celeron or a single core machines, we don't have to jump into the complications as such. Um, say A plus B, or the A of 1 plus B of 1 is equal to C of 1, that has to go into, so that instead of A of I plus B of I is equal to C of I, so that has to be iterative. So you put it in a for loop, and that's where it has to be evaluated. Now, if I say that there are enough number of cores and all the cores have the adders or the ALUs required for the computing operations, now you pass the pointers or the array pointers to the function and call it from the main function of the host code. So then you should be able to execute that parallelly or within single clock cycles with respect to that. So we need to allocate memory. So whenever you want to compute that, so you are in a host machine. So whenever I say int a b, or you are declaring variables that are associated in a main code, say hash include stdio.h, say whenever you say that int a, so now it is the job of compiler. It sees that you are declaring a variable called as integer, maybe the 4 consecutive bytes have to be stored and a pointer of that has to be assigned to a. That's how the compiler perceives whenever any requirement for a variable declaration happens. So float means 8 bytes or something of that sort. Now it's the job of compiler, and compiler knows where is that memory located. What is happening is whenever you want to compute or delegate that particular job to the devices, and you don't have any permissions to operate on the memory architecture of the GPU devices, because host machine. So for your memory you are a boss, but whenever you go to the GPU memory, maybe there's a society kind of architecture where every GPU is having a shared memory or the global memory through which it can fetch operands, and there the same concept will not hold true. So what has to happen is you have to copy the contents from the global memory of host machine to the what is it, CUDA or the device memory architectures. So device pointers point to GPU memory may be passed from one host code to passed to or from host code may not be dereferenced in the host code. So that why void pointers, and what happens if I dereference in a void pointer, because you are taking the largest possible memory allocations, but it cannot be dereferenced by the host machine because it is totally unaware of the memory and the architecture and how it is distributed over there. It is ownership is normally with respect to device. So hence you can copy the contents to that memory locations. You can just ask it to have a void pointer and pass the parameters from you to the device memory of the CUDA or the devices. So there are CUDA APIs. So this is what we are learning in this particular chapter. Basically, CUDA malloc, CUDA free, CUDA memcopy. So something similar equivalents of malloc free and memcopy from the C programming, or the you are managing the runtime of the kind of arrays. So you are not wasting the resources unnecessarily. Whenever you want it, You request for allocation. Once you have it, do the computation, and after your computation, just release it. Okay. So pointers, global underscore global void add. Okay, use the pointers. Then so now he says these are the variables that are declared by the host machine and can be used by the host machine directly. And you are declaring a pointers. So device copies. So these are the things or the memory locations that have to be copied to the device, or you want some allocation over the devices. So you have declared it as an integer, but whenever you are passing CUDA unlocking, you are doing that pointer to double star pointer to pointer. So that is passed on. So as with respect to size, now, within a size, you are making sure that size of int. So otherwise, it's a void pointer onto the device whenever you are passing C calling of the memory allocation is happening from host machine. So you want to request the CUDA device just to allocate some memory for the in the global memory, where your intention is to store the these variables DA, DB, DC, or these are the variables. So copied to the device architectures. So within a host, they are ABCs. Fine. So once you have allocated memory onto the device, so now you have to copy the content. Say I want to copy A into, so A was in host machine. Now it has to be passed on to the D underscore A, and the CUDA mem copy host to device. So you are copying from host to device, whatever the size. So size of integer, right now we are having only one integer for that matter. Uh, if I am declaring it as a one variable, not as an array, only that is passed. If you are declaring an array, then the first element of the pointer, and anyway size is multiplication of whatever the number of elements. Right? So once you have passed, so all the operands required for your computation, say that is the addition is my operation, and required for that is readily available. Anyway, looking at this kernel for that matter, if there are n number of blocks and each block have had a n number of threads, so much computations, n cross n computations would have happened almost instantaneously, because operands are readily available and you can compute instantaneously. So once the result is produced and CUDA mem copy, you go the other way. So there was a result which was stored in D underscore C, and now this has to be passed on to the host machine. This is the result of array addition of the. Now there is no array as such, but if there was, so then it's array addition. So CUDA mem copy, you are copying it to the C pointer. So once you have done this, you want to avoid the dangling pointers. So the because you have used it and they are storing variable and no more further allocation of, because memory is a scarce resource whenever you are running a large amount of computations. So that you want to free that. So whenever you free that, the same memory can be allocated to some other stuffs. Okay. Otherwise, what happens whenever this kernel or function ceases existence, um, memory still is in a hanging state. So the variables have died out, but I cannot allocate to any others because the ownership has not changed. So if you free that, so whenever the life and scope of a variable, say it ceases to exist, so that becomes clean memory, or it can be allocated to newer stuff as or the any new request. Okay. So GPU computation is about massive parallelism. So now we start visualizing in a real parallelism. So earlier, whatever we have showcased is you have two devices. Maybe they are for two different kinds. One is a host, maybe some powerful CPU, and there was a array of CPUs. But now, for the example sake, we have taken only one CPU or one thread for executions. Now he starts putting n over there. So how to make it happen simultaneously? Instead of executing n, no, execute n times parallel. So whenever you put n, so the memory allocation of the elements are distributed across devices and they compute one addition at a given point of time. So this example has dealing with the vector addition on the device with the add running on parallel terminology. So again, we have to somewhere state about block IDX. As we have stated earlier as well, the threads or blocks can be distributed across three dimensions. Here we are just providing the number of blocks and number of threads per block whenever you are calling in kernel. Otherwise, normally they are passed on as a variables with respect to time 3 or dimension 3, so that what are x, y, z's allocations. So CUDA get device properties whenever you use that particular API, you come to know what is the maximum number of blocks you can have and what is the maximum number of threads in each dimension of a particular block you can allocate. And the number of, say, what is the maximum clock frequency with which you can run the code and so on. So you have a device properties and then make alteration of the willful or tactful programmers sees to that he exploits the parallelism available with respect to that hardware or device format. Right, to be very simple. Um, Ultimately, we want to index. Otherwise, in a previous case, if we just had a single variable or single pointer and you had addition, now that have to be addressed. So pointer and a pointer has to be addressed with respect to. Now, if I say that I have a block IDX, so I have only in one dimension, so x dimensions, 256 or whatever number of threads you are adding that. That's how it is indicated. Block IDX dot x or block. A of I or C of I is equal to A of I plus B of I, similar stuff. Now you are using that block ID of x, so that is the GPU variable of the whenever you are using CUDA, that is allocated by the GPU. So that is indexed by GPU to be more precise. So what is happening is now every block is having only one thread because we have stated n comma n, n comma 1. Right? Otherwise, block also can have a three-dimensional x, y, z more dimensional. So most of the initial CUDA versions or GPU versions, we stated that z is equal to 1. So only x, y dimensions were used for the computations. But the later part of the GPUs, they also start using z dimensions as well. Okay. So all these computations happen simultaneously and the result is produced. Okay. So what has happened? You defined total number of threads as 512 and the number as we stated now size is n into size of int. So you are multiplying, you have automatically made them as a point to array. So anyway the pointer will be pointing to zeroth element of that particular array and hence the computation, right? CUDA malloc and you allocate a memory and then you for computation, for experimental computations, he is using one more random its so that he generates some numbers so that there's a meaningful computation as such. Otherwise, most of your textbook codes will not skip this piece of code. Computation but what is the computation that is going on? So now you have numbers. So whenever you display or printf all the statements, so you can see that 2 plus 4 is equal to 6, something you can make it out something was correct or wrong as such. So once you have copied the contents, so operands are copied to the device. Now you call or launch the kernel, addition kernel with the n blocks as such. So with one thread per block. So once it is executed, now result is produced. Now you pass on C to the host machine. So free the or clean up process and CUDA free. That is you are freeing free was specific to C or host machine. CUDA is free for the GPU machines. So who is a host? Normal CPU or the host machine is CPU and device whenever we say that it is GPU in the wherever in the GPU or massive parallel processing textbooks you are using these terminologies. Host is CPU and device is GPU. Using global declares a function as device code, so that has to run onto the devices, not onto the host machine. Executes on the device and it has to be invariably called by the host machine or host code. So you pass the parameters through the parameter passing order whenever you declare the function, declaration of function definition remains same except the fact that _ global is the additional keyword that goes into the declaration, and whenever you are launching the kernel and you have the triple angular brackets where you are planning your grid and threads. Okay. Yes, threads he has stated thread ADX and block ADX. Block is number of threads, thread ADX within a single dimensions or how you are distributed threads for X, Y, Z directions. Okay, once you see the code, a new step. So 1 comma n. Now the other way, you have only one block, and if I say that one block can have a 256 threads, 256 computations will happen automatically. You have single block, multiple threads. See parallel vector condition using many blocks, one thread, and one block with many threads. That's 1 comma n comma 1. That's how the things were executed. And whenever you plan for indexing or how variable indexing happens, so block IDX within the block you are want to index a particular number. So how index is computed, or whenever you want to compute back, or how it is running onto the machine, you want to know it. Basically, index is computed by thread IDX and block IDX, because you are multiplying. See, if I say that 8 bytes. So block IDX is multiplied by m. So block IDX dot x. If it is 0, you are pointing over this block. If it is 1, you are pointing at the next block. And within this block, if I want to know the offset of which is a particular thread you want to fetch, then thread IDX dot x. That's how it is being manipulated, right? For an example for that, you want to fetch this number, say 21. How do you compute that? Block IDX and thread IDX. So it is block size is 8, 2 into 8. So thread IDX is the fifth element you are fetching. So 21 you want to fetch, and hence can observe that it is happened. So as we have stated, block dimensions. So block dimensions and thread dimensions, as we have stated, they are using some construct, something like a dimensions x, y, z. That's what can be passed on to the variables. So whenever you are launching the triple angular bracket kernels, so you are passing only n comma n. So now that can be a structure. Whenever you say dim3 x, y, z, 3 dimensions are there for that one variable, whatever you are saying there. Okay, and that can be passed. So 2048, 204, that's where he is bringing a matrix or xy dimensions to the threads as such. So threads per block is 512, and how do you allocate them? So n threads per block, how many threads per block you want to allocate, and the threads per block. So this is how many blocks and how many threads per block. So number of blocks, number of threads per block. So that's where the still we are somewhere even thinking about single dimensions. What I am stating is, whenever you are passing this threads per block, so they can be different in different directions. So x, y, z will be there. There are 3 dimensions, or it can be a structure called as a of dimension 3 or dim3. Maybe in the next slide, or she is stating that. So m comma n, or the same stuff is replicated. So the add level of complexity over 2 threads seems why bother with threads? Yes, as we have covered the chapters in a later part, there is a SPMD to SIMD architecture whenever you want to execute. So the hardware manipulation has to be made as simple as possible, and hence you are running the code in terms of SIMD, single instruction multiple data. So at least 32 processors or threads or processors of threads. Processor and device processor. So they are running simultaneously. So one instruction is being run onto that. So stenciling is about how do you compute that. So now he wants to compute this element, and there are 7 elements. So radius of the tone we have not covered this onto the as of now. But if you want to just have it, rough idea is to produce this element, summation of all the 7 elements. So 3 left side, 3 right side will happen, and then you compute the stuff. So some kind of blurring or averaging kind whenever you want to compute with respect to image processing. So what happens is, and that's at 2 dimensions, say 2 cross 2 or 3 cross 3 So center pixel will be computed as an average of all the other pixels, including that pixel. So that's how the things will be computed, and parallelization, or whenever you have this, those things. So whenever you have a boundary condition, invariably you have to put some zeros and compute that. That's what is showcased as a stenciling, what we have skipped for your teaching as such. Okay, data arrays. Sync threads is whenever you are running that, say you are running over different blocks, only when everybody has computed and you can go to the next iteration or something of next stage in that particular competition, so that once a block which has completed should not finish, so that there is a variable corruption. So you update the value, and that variable may be used by somebody else, or some other block, and that should be avoided. So there is a barrier kind of synchronization that is used over there. So what happens is you stop until everybody finishes the job. So even though you have finished, you are not allowed to go to the next level as such. So why it is doing that? You want to prevent that RAW, RNWW, so structural results. What is RAW is read after write, write after read, write after write. So what are these basically means is, if you are executing something parallelly, say if I am saying that C is equal to A plus B and C is equal to A minus B, so something happening with respect to C itself in two iterations and they are running parallel. Now what is the value of C if they go parallel? So that creates ambiguity. So you are writing into the right after right. So you are updating the same variable again and again. Say for the thread 2 has run first and thread 1 has run first. So there is ambiguity with respect to the value of that. Then there should be proper sequentialization or serialization that has to be followed. Whether you are reading the updated value or whether you are reading the last value whenever you are using a computation. So that speaks with respect to the uh, read after write. So you want to read the updated value. So there should be some constraint stoppage as to introduced. Or you are reading the write after write. So you are reading the corrupted value. So all these results, whenever you start visualizing, some things are happening parallel with respect to same variables or same registers or then you find these difficulties. You want to avoid them, then start using a sync thread, so that when everybody has computed, then I will reuse that variables. So that there should be some barrier, so that you stop them proceeding further, even though they have completed. It may seem something like you are making a hurdle or the decrease in the performance, but it is required for the maintaining the functionality as such. Okay, stencil kernel, I just skip that, and n comma m is number of blocks and the number of threads per block. Block dim, whatever you are using over here, so it is speaks about the dimension in direction of x. So there is a dim 3 that is being used. Other than double underscore global double underscore, there are variables something similar to double underscore shade. A declared variable are in a shared memory. Data is shared between threads in a block, not visible to threads in the other block. So data is shared between threads in a block. If I say that block 0 has 256 threads, so the data is shared between those 256 threads. So block 0 threads can access the data. Block 1 threads are made devoid or cannot access the data. That's how the shared variable is declared. So sync threads as a barrier, so to prevent data hazards. Okay, then synchronous operation, kernel launches a synchronous control returns to the CPU immediately before consuming the results, because whenever you go for a mem copy, mem asynchronous, so these are the functions of APIs whenever you request. So whenever you are programming, you have to think from the perspective, if there is a success, if there is no success. So you have to think from the both the perspectives, and whenever these allocations are, it's more oftenly whenever you delegate a job, you cannot expect some consistency over there. So whenever one person of I own the ownership and I'm doing it, so I know what to do, when to do. So whenever I just ask you to do, so then the deadlines and other stuff. So two people involved, we may not agree upon common stuff. So then hence there should be a margin, and what to do if something is not happening within a stipulated amount of time. So that is error management. So get last error and how do you resolve the error. So you print a statement. So you are just stating that something has failed, or you want to follow other approach. Maybe I will back off and make it happen with some other time. Okay. That's error management. So device management, as I stated, you could get device count or the set device. These are with respect to the again just APIs. So whenever you call this device properties, you know what is the maximum number of blocks, threads across the dimensions, and you can plan accordingly whatever code you are developing. And in some way, it has to be in dynamic sense. Okay, because you are not interacting. So the code is interacting, and whenever it allocates, then appropriately with respect to variables, you can manipulate the code. Okay, shared memory copies, includes, and fundamental CUDA support 870 number of registers. So again, it depends on the device to device and the variations as such. So block IDX, thread IDX, I have even shared the cheat code. So how to declare that particular if I was not able to memorize stuff, say and logically you cannot analyze, then you can just buy that and the stuff. So that is those. I think the same stuff with respect to Ilona University. Can refer to him. So maybe slide number 2 and 3 are repeating the same stuff, maybe in a much simpler way. So once you read this CUDA, whatever I have shared, so the number of slides, whatever he is using, are somewhat lesser, but he conveys more information onto it. So 31 slides. So if I just neglect that symmetrical threads, so then so binary to gray, or there is a visualization that is showcased over there. So color image to grayscale image you want to convert. For every pixel, he is using some function pixel. So if it is running sequentially, you have to iteratively run this piece of code, and if it is running parallelly, simultaneously the entire matrix can be converted at once. Right? So that is what is showcased with respect to vector computation as such. Okay. So serial code and parallel code, they are not overlapped. So run the serial code, then something is exported as in the single program, multiple data. So there is a parallelization, number of blocks and number of threads through which you run. Again, come back to serial. So 4 can join. So thread indexing and the number of, so this is a block. Within a box, you are identify a particular thread. C of I is equal to whatever you are showcasing. And as we have stated, they can grid. So blocks can be three-dimensional as well. Threads can be also arranged in three dimensions. Normally, there is a variable or construct that is made available with respect to CUDA constructs as such. So grid diamond dot x is speaking with respect towards the block sizes. Block IDX is how many threads across x, y, z directions. Okay? 2D, 3D, and how do you index them? How do you call the blocks? So the arrangement of kernel, whatever the code you are calling, and it calls a code. So whenever you call the code, then internally there is a streaming multiprocessor which in turn call the blocks. So each streaming multiprocessor has a number of SPs or streaming processors, and hence they will execute them. So traditional vector addition code he has showcased that, and what is the difference he has showcased. There you can see A, B, C. Now whatever you are passing is underscore H is something declared in the main function, and underscore D stands something will be used in the device architectures. So that has been showcased. So read write per devices, and there is a global memory. It is shared across threads or blocks whenever you are stating that. So whenever you're declaring global, shared, and device, that makes sense. With respect to the same global memory, how you are fetching the data. It looks same, but whenever I say shared with respect to something with respect pertaining to this block, even the memory, this memory is some piece of memory is shared only with respect to this block, or it starts claiming ownership of that particular memory block. Okay. Good, find close to data, copy, vector addition kernel. So how you are doing it? If I is equal to n, so whenever you index that, you may start overflowing the index. So then what happens is normally the as you have stated or seen in the later chapters, the computation happens, but the results are discarded. So you can close code. So you pass on the devices, and these are the steps, number of blocks per dimensions, and once you allocate them, you launch the kernel, and it runs onto the CPUs, and these were the three keywords CUDA declaration functions which can use. Global is the normal or more traditionally used. So device is something only particular those device wants to claim the ownership. Then shared whenever, which is not showcased here, is across blocks as such. Right. So NVCC compiler has that device code PTX, the number of threads. So device just in time compiler, it compiles in time and builds it over there. Then you know how the code of which processor has to run which piece of code, and that piece of code automatically runs over there and it starts executing on that piece of like a CPU. Okay, that's heterogeneous computing or the NVCC compilers or specification of NVCC compiler. If I just cross this, so just in time compilation, then it becomes normal GCC or any other C compiler. You have a host code, compile it, and transfer to the machines. There is no heterogeneity involved because there's only single processor on which you are running. If you have two kinds of machines and one is run onto the runtime machines. Okay. So, okay, I think I will stop today's class at this juncture. Any doubts? You are free to ask. So, just recording. Okay. No questions, then we can